And now, Mr. Willy's Pod of Mayhem on the Breaking Fate Radio Network.
Estamos estampillas. For you, in fact, coming up next up. Come on.
Hello, welcome to the Pod of Mayhem. I am Mr. Willy Atkins. Thank you for listening to this episode 6, featuring actress Lillian Lamour. We'll be discussing a number of her film projects, battles with depression, and how she got her start on the big screen. Before we get started, I first want to say how much I truly appreciate all this early support we've had with the Pod of Mayhem podcast. It's been a true learning experience for me. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I really hope to continue doing it more in the future. I've recently set up a Patreon page. I'd like to encourage you to go take a look at that. It's something I'm going to use to support not just the Pod of Mayhem, but all my works through Breaking Fate Entertainment. Just simply check out patreon.com/Breaking Fate, and you can learn more about all the things I do there. Or check out breakingfate.com. Your listening means the world, and it's truly an honor to be bringing attention to simply amazing and creative people that I'm featuring each week here on the Pod of Mayhem. If you think you might be the perfect guest for this show, please send me an email at breakingfateradio@gmail.com, including some information about yourself and why you wish to be a guest. Finally, I want to invite you to follow us on Twitter at Pod of Mayhem. Also stay in the loop on upcoming shows, guests, and information on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pod of Mayhem. I'll be right back with the very lovely Lillian Lamour right after this. Are you enjoying the Pod of Mayhem and you want to start a podcast yourself? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First and foremost, it's free. I mean, you can't be free, right? In addition to that, there's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. So, if you'd like to check it out, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Lillian, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
So, let's get started with a simple question. Like, where are you from?
I'm not from this earth, no. I grew up in Hammond, Indiana, and actually a trailer park. So that was kind of an interesting experience for me. That's where I think my development of my interest in acting came from, because with the neighborhood kids, I would often create these scenarios, like I called them adventures, that we would play, and it was basically me and the neighborhood kids pretending like we were in a movie and like being chased by bad guys, and I played like this hero in the story, and I always imagined myself, like I was in a movie, and like that was a movie playing, and I would kind of almost feel like there's, adventure music playing and all these dramatic scenes of like the camera zooming up in my face and all this stuff. So that's kind of like where it kind of started for me as far as wanting to be an actress, was doing that kind of stuff.
So you're talking real young.
Yeah, like I moved there. We moved to the Hammond trailer court when I was 5.
Wow, okay, real young.
Yeah, and I lived there till I was 12.
Where did you go after 12?
Carroll Stream, Illinois.
Oh, okay. Chicago.
And that was just a townhome, so I moved up.
Moving on up.
Moving on up from the trailer to the townhome.
Hey, there's some really nice trailers out there, let me tell you.
Yes.
So what was life like growing up? Are there any other siblings? Or
No, I'm an only child. So that was also one of the reasons I kind of created a very colorful, imaginary world. I had to entertain myself a lot. So even if there weren't other kids to play with, I would kind of pretend that there were. And I would create, like I said, like I would play adventures and imagine like I was in a movie and fighting bad guys and things like that. So that kept me from being bored as an only child. So
So acting was always something you wanted to do from as long as you could remember.
Yeah, pretty much. I did do stuff like my mom had me when I was a child. I was in tap dancing. What else was it? Like other kind of like dance, gymnastics, different things that kind of dabbled in that type of thing. But I never did like. She didn't have me go out for like commercials or anything like the child actor type of thing.
Some of those moms can be crazy.
Yeah. No, it's crazy in other ways. But, so that was just kind of my, kind of how it budded in me was kind of like through being an only child. Because I'm like,
Well, you're always center stage at that point, I'm sure.
Yeah. And actually, there's a story. My mom told me that when I was little, I used to, with the TV, I would try and climb when I was like a toddler. I guess I was always trying to climb into the TV because I wanted to go in there because I thought that was like a real world.
That's excellent.
It's very metaphorical.
Makes me think of Willy Wonka.
The question is, did I actually climb through? Is this the reality?
Well, you've gotten in that box somehow. I've seen it happen a few times. So when did you first get started in film then? I mean, when did the imagination finally jump to the screen?
The real thing. Or
was there stage involved at all either?
There actually, I was just going to say, there was a transitional stage of the stage. As a teenager, I was taking like play production in high school, which did like various aspects of theater. I was in some plays. I also was. This was a time where I was getting the big dreams of being an actress, and I was in a pageant, Miss Junior America pageant, as a preteen or whatever, one of the finalists. So I was kind of like just dabbling, not really taking hold. One of the things that held me back from actually getting into film at that point, teenage, the cusp, was I struggled with depression as a teenager. So I guess I'm jumping kind of into that.
That's okay.
Because that kind of tells the whole story.
It's a party. Go with it.
Story of me. So in this depression caused me to, I was kind of in an in or outpatient facility as a teenager. I kind of dropped out of school when I was before I graduated, and I ended up doing this like weird homeschooling thing. So I technically got my degree, but I wasn't there the last year, I guess, mainly because of my depression and being very antisocial, just out of sync with society, I guess you could say. At that point, I kind of had the mentality like everything's been done. I am not going to make it as an actress. It's too like all my dreams like have already been accomplished. So what am I going to accomplish? So it was a very nihilistic view, I guess you could say. But still, that thing burning inside me, like I still want to do it. But it was just like, I don't know. Depression is it just crushes you. It's just
Anyone who suffers with it listening to this will know that very well.
Yeah.
And those who don't may never quite understand exactly what it's like, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So when were you able to start into film?
Well, actually, you were kind of, I consider you kind of like the gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper?
In my mind. My mind is very colorful. But I actually met you through Jason Sullivan. I think it was 2011, approximately. This was shortly, so I had kind of a hiatus, not even a hiatus. I didn't even start in film. I kind of dropped off the map for a while with everything, as I do. And I had kind of a revelation. This was a little bit after my first child was born. I kind of was like, I just got to do something. I got to stop this negative outlook of like, oh, why even bother? I'm too afraid to try. So that I just kind of, I don't know if I contacted Jason or he contacted me, but he and I had talked before about screenwriting. He was writing a screenplay, Fallenberg.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and he had me kind of like look at it and edit it, kind of type of thing, or give him input. And so then I heard he was doing a film, and I can't remember the name of it. It was a short film that he had written, and I don't know if he produced it, but it was showing at one of your festivals, and that's where I met you. It was, oh God.
Was he in one of Dragon's films, maybe?
It may have been. I don't think he was in it, though. I don't think Jason was in it as an actor. I can't remember.
Oh, I'm not quite sure what it would have been.
Gosh, I wish I would have had that one prepared, like to be able to talk about, because that's where I met you, and that's where it all started. That's where I think you started to. I think there might have been some audition you told me about, and that's when it all kind of.
Honestly, I've known you so long now, I can't remember exactly where the hell. But this happens with a lot of the guests I've had on the show so far. It's like Mike Schmidt had to remind me that I met him in an audition room, and we created this great character on the spot. And Jason Sullivan, who you mentioned, was in that room at the same time for a film called Headline News.
That's it!
Was it?
Yes!
Excellent. Yeah, he helped produce that.
Okay, yeah, because I know. Didn't he write it, though?
He took an original story by a guy named Michael Klein, who was a paranormal author, and Michael Klein had created this story using some kind of card game or something, just laying out these cards with random characters or situations, and he wrote this story, and Jason Sullivan took that story and translated it into a screenplay, and then him and I both co-wrote and did revisions on it to make it Headline News.
Okay.
So you would have seen Headline News show, 2010, 2011, probably.
Yeah, that's I think when it was, and that's when I met you. It was at a fest, I think. That's what prompted me to come out, because I wanted to support him, because he had written the other thing that he helped me, or that I like looked at and helped him with, and I'm like, I gotta support him, and I gotta start getting out there, and it just kind of like, went from there.
Wow. So what was the very first film that you were able to act in?
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna check IMDb, because this could be difficult. You've got 40-something credits here.
Yeah.
The Infinity Trinity?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That would have been 2012, according to IMDb, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a student film. And that was like a comedy film. I play a small role in there. I play a doctor that basically gives this kid, whatever, this older kid or whatever, a diagnosis. I think that he was dying of, I think it was cancer. It's been so long. And I'm very like serious and to the point, just unemotional. I tell him this diagnosis, but it kind of leads to some like slapstick comedy. This is not a serious movie at all. It's very comical. Your character's just serious. But my character's serious, just kind of matter of fact. But yeah, I remember the audition for that. I made a point to bring a doctor's, like a white coat thing, that because my mom was a nurse in the past. So I found that. I remember looking at this. Oh my gosh, it's coming back to me. I remember looking in the basement, like scrambling, like, oh, I got to bring this to this audition. I think that impressed them enough, and then I got the role. But that's what that one was. Excellent. What did you think of that after finally completing that? Oh, I loved it. I mean, caught the bug for sure then, huh? Yeah, and I caught the bug, I think, probably more so when we viewed it, where they had like, it wasn't exactly a film fest, but it was the student film viewing, of that film and a couple other ones in the guy's class. And, the audience reaction, everybody seemed to love the film. It was very fun and, funny and stuff. So and then I kind of like made connections there with somebody else that like saw, whatever, my talent or whatever you want to say. And I was going to do another film, which never transpired. But that happens a lot. Yeah, it definitely happens. You have over 40 films here that did happen, though, so congrats. Oh, surprisingly, thank you. I can imagine it'd be difficult to remember every single one of these. I don't even know where I am right now, so. That's all right. We'll help you through it.
looking back, did you start working on stuff very regularly at that point?
I did. I had almost an obsession because for me it was like making up for lost time. I had wasted so many years in my own, I struggle with depression, and I go through periods where I basically just isolate myself. I interact with very few people, just kind of shut myself away from the world, just afraid of everything. But I still have that burning desire, and I always have that, but I feel like I can't handle it. Like I can't handle the pressure that, that would come with where I want to go, where my dreams are.
So when you get in, I'm looking, there's a lot of credits from 2012, 2013 was a really heavy time for you. A lot of short films, really, it looks like.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
Whenever you are working so much on this stuff, does it kind of take you away from depression issues and kind of give you something more raw to focus on?
It's kind of a double-edged sword. It does. It absolutely. I like losing myself in other characters. I'm more fantasy given anyways, or fantasy driven, whatever you want to say. So it does distract me, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes I burn myself out with it. I get too consumed with petty stuff of it, like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I start getting, like the petty things we all go through of like jealousy with other actors, like, oh, they're doing more than me, and oh, how come my films don't get that made?
That internal struggle is very real.
Yeah, and I turn it very much inward, and I get very mad at myself, and I'm like, well, why do I keep getting so many film projects that don't get made? So I'm kind of when I'm in that state, I think of things in a negative context. So you're looking at the positive, like, oh, look at all these films you've done, and I look at like all these ones that don't get made because of whatever, and then I see other people posting stuff, and then I get get petty inside, and that gets to be an obstacle in of itself, because then if you're so focused on what you don't have or what you're not doing, then you're not able to let that creative energy flow to some other things that you could be doing. It's a constant human struggle, I guess.
You hold your own on a set. I can say that because I've been there with you several times now. It's funny, I know we were talking about this before we started recording the podcast briefly today, that you and I tend to beat the living hell out of each other when it comes to being on screen. I was trying to find, just randomly, I'm like, what was the first thing that we worked on together? And I think Incorporal was probably the very first film, and we were in the basement of a funeral home beating the living hell out of each other, rolling around in dirt.
Oh my gosh.
It was an experience.
Oh yeah. No, those are I like those really intense experiences, because it makes me feel alive. I don't mind doing stuff like
we have a photo kissing from that particular day, as I recall, which just looks hilarious. I got this, what the hell did I have? I had something in my hand, like I was going to strike you with it. We're both just loaded in just the nastiest dirt and blood and all sorts of nastiness. It would just kind of probably threw off any viewer that was going to watch that. Like, what the
I never
hell?
felt so dirty in my life. Well.
Well, we'll take that with a badge of honor then.
I remember cleaning myself off in the basement, or in the bathroom of the basement of the funeral home. It's just like, I was literally stripping down naked, cleaning myself, because it was so dirty.
Oh, yeah. It was the most nasty mess I've ever been in when it came to filming. Loaded in all sorts of stuff. But as I watched that back, I honestly have to say I really enjoyed that segment. We didn't have dialogue. We just were beating the crap out of each other.
It was a very physical role.
It's like it told a story without words, too. It's another part that I really enjoyed about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's Incorporal for anybody who's interested. I am not sure if that's on Amazon Prime or anything. I think it's on BreakingFateTV.com, so if you want to look for that there, you can check it out. It's by Faux Pas Films. Michael Wade Johnson, I believe, right?
Yeah, I've done a couple of his. Or one other one, I think.
I haven't seen you in a little bit myself. I know that we worked on a film briefly together, again, where we're struggling and fighting. That would have been last summer, but I haven't heard much of what's been going on since then.
Yeah, it's been, I haven't done a whole lot as far as other people's films, I guess you could say. I'm kind of at this point where, unless somebody comes up to me and asks me, like, hey, will you be in my film? Because I've worked with you before. I'm not really in the audition mode anymore because be honest, I don't have the time. I have, a 2, almost 3-year-old who is a lot of work. So he keeps me busy. I had some health issues and, I struggle with depression. So, it's just hard for me to really get out there. I kind of want to change that. I kind of want to start getting out there, but I'm kind of at a point where I want to be more efficient, I guess you could say, with my activities anyways. So I'm more in the mindset of like making my own stuff where I can exactly have the role that I'm wanting to play. Instead of wasting all the time, like, oh, I got to drive all the way to Chicago to audition for this role that I may not even get, that may not even be that great of a role for me as far as what I'm looking for, whatever the case.
And you attend 20 auditions, you might get one, maybe.
That
exactly. Can certainly fuel some depression too.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. It doesn't help. Rejection is constant in this business, so. If you're somebody that struggles with self-esteem issues, it's hard. But I still keep doing it, so I must be like I don't know, like I must like the pain of it or something. I don't know.
Well, I know you're part of a couple other films. I want to talk a little bit more about those and
Sure.
the campaigns they have available, but we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Bolt your doors, lock your windows, turn off your lights, and come with me into the Weird Darkness. I'm Darren Marlar, host of Weird Darkness, where I share stories of the paranormal, supernatural, legends, lore, mysterious, macabre, unsolved, and unexplained. Recently named one of the best storytellers in podcasting for 2019 by Podcast Business Journal. Whether it's ghosts, cryptids, true crime, or creepypastas, you'll find it all in Weird Darkness. Episodes uploaded 7 days a week. Search for Weird Darkness in your favorite podcast app, or listen now at WeirdDarkness.com.
This is paranormal historian and author Ursula Bielski, and if you love ghosts and hauntings as much as I do, then you should join me and several other knowledgeable guests at the 2020 Afterlife Paranormal Conference on Sunday, October 4th at the Red Roof Inn Convention Center in DeKalb, Illinois. This is going to be a wonderful event featuring presentations about haunted history and evidence of the paranormal. If you have a ghost hunting team or even artwork that fits the theme, the conference also has vendor space available. Be sure to check out www.afterlifeparanormal.com for tickets and details. I look forward to seeing you there, unless you're scared.
All right, welcome back. I have Lillian Lamour with us today, and we were just talking about some of her current film projects here, and there's a couple I know that are coming up pretty soon. You want to give us a little lead-in to what those film projects are?
Sure. I am involved in a film called The Castle. It's kind of a, I guess you'd say it's The Shining meets the Nazis, if you could imagine that. My character, I've kind of a small role in that one, but it's a really cool role because I get to play someone that's possessed.
Ooh.
I am the sister of the main character, and most of my scenes are basically me in a Skype call with her, but I get to do basically where Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of thing, where I'm the bubbly mom or whatever, and I'm her sister, and I have kids, and I'm just really a wholesome character, and then I switch because of the power and magic of the castle kind of possesses me, and I basically turn evil and vicious and start lashing out at my sister, and it was such a fun, because we did a lot of rehearsals, it has yet to be filmed because we're looking for funding for it, but it's a period piece, so it's set in the World War II type of setting, so it's got a lot of really cool costumes and battle scenes and weird supernatural ghostly elements. So it's hopefully we'll be getting that made. But
sounds really interesting. So it's all this whole fantasy thing.
Yeah.
Nice. I love the paranormal twist on it as well. The ghostly type stories are always fun.
Yeah, and it stars, I think, Lou Temple, and what's the other guy? Matthew Ashford, which Lou Temple, he was in The Devil's Rejects, and what's that other zombie show that was real? The Walking Dead.
Walking Dead.
Yeah, and Matthew Ashford, I think he's a soap opera star. I don't follow soap operas, but... so those are some name talent attached. And Shannon Lee, she plays a sultry character. Lot of Chicago talent is in this film.
And who's producing that one?
John Tomasek.
John Tomasek.
Yeah, he likes a lot of those period films. He's done some other ones too. And I've worked with him on another one before called Forgiveness, which is kind of one of my very only, my only wholesome, family-friendly type of films. Most of mine are dark in some way.
What do you think of that, getting cast in a lot of the darker things?
I am usually drawn to those type of films. Usually a lot of my roles are risque because I'm usually the one that's willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do on film. As you had said, that like the stuff that we've done was really wild and violent,
and dirty, and
yeah,
bloody.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I like kind of doing the more gutsier roles or put myself out there, but sometimes it causes a lot of personal problems in my life. But
I can understand that. I'm sure most people could.
But yeah, so I like to do a lot of those type of... I'm drawn to the darker roles because it kind of, in a way, is a reflection of my own mind. So
every time I think my wife has seen a film where I have an intimate scene, I think she just kind of like looks away from the screen or something. That's her way of coping. Maybe, I'm not quite sure, but
yeah,
I can certainly understand where there could be some tension and people just don't quite have the ability to handle it sometimes.
Yeah.
And what was the other film that was something coming up soon?
It's called Torture the Flesh. It's that's a horror film. I gotta be quite honest, I don't know a lot of the plot line of that, but I know that my character is killed in there, as so many of my roles are. So we're still looking for funding on that one on GoFundMe. Yeah.
And that's called Torture the Flesh.
Yeah.
What do you think has really been your greatest challenges when it comes to filmmaking, either acting, directing, producing, across the board? What do you think your greatest challenges have been in trying to pursue this? And obviously depression is going to be up there, so we've heard that. So let's look beyond the depression part, because we certainly know that and understand that. What are the other challenges that are pretty much industry-based, you think, that you have to face when you're going to do something like this?
Well, for me... I think typecasting is always a challenge. In fact, before I got the role of where I mentioned I was in Forgiveness, which was actually a really good, serious role for me, it was kind of a step away from the typical bimbo role or, horror film role that I was doing prior to that. And, I remember going to that audition and I was at a point mentally where I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't think I'm going to get this role. I look too much like a bleach blonde bimbo. I'm probably not going to get this role. And I went there and auditioned, and the audition process, I told him, I said, you know what? I'm more than happy to dye my hair if I need to get the role. I don't have any problem with that. And he's like, I'm glad you said that because the person that I have that would be playing your brother is brunette. And so... I think that helped because I was willing to go that extra step and kind of change my appearance if need be for the role. So, and I actually really liked doing that, because I did. They had my hair dyed brown for it or, darker. And that kind of helped me get a couple other roles after that. So, typecasting is always an obstacle because you get that typecast where you're like, good, people will know me. but then it's limiting to you
know
as
you
well.
just as that character.
Just as that, exactly.
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot myself. So what type of characters do you think are your favorite to portray? I mean, if your dream role was going to be landed on the table in front of you in a script, what is your character? I mean, what kind of person would that be?
I am drawn to darker roles. I would like to play, or I like to, when I played it, villain characters, which brings me to a film that I'm wanting to make called Derange. So I think the characters that are darker, that are even evil. That's why I enjoyed doing the role for the castle, because my character shifts from wholesome to this evil entity, and I think those are the most fun to play. Angry or evil or dark or bad guys, they're just more fun because you can play with them a lot more than just like the heroine character or whatever, or just like the romantic interest or something. Because like one of the roles you did, you got to play that in Gordon Finn. I played opposite you or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And that was...
We were violent against each other in that one as well, of course.
But I'm sure that was fun, because I mean, that's as far as fun to play that kind of role.
Speaking of that role, I mean, we both had to take a stabbing from the actress Anne Sheehan.
Yes.
And she is known to be quite vicious. I had a straitjacket on when I get stabbed by her, and they had like several T-shirts padding my chest underneath the straitjacket, which you obviously wouldn't be able to tell or see on screen. But she goes to stab me with a pen, and she like covers the end of the pen with her thumb. So if you can imagine somebody holding a pen like they were clicking it constantly, imagine it flipped around the other way to where the sharp end of the pen is against the thumb. And she comes up to stab me with this, with her thumb covering it repeatedly. And I had all these T-shirts padding my chest, and I still ended up with a bunch of bruises on my chest, and it's violent.
Yeah.
And you had a retractable blade stabbed against your chest by her also repeatedly.
I think.
What was that like for you? Was it similar? I mean, was she equally violent, you think?
I don't remember so much of that, but I do remember that now that you say it. But I do remember having, I think, some bruising from it. But I mean, that's usually a lot of the films that when I throw myself into it, like you should have some bruises afterwards.
You're hardcore, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes it more real. Like to me, I feel like I can get into a place mentally to play the character better if you feel it physically. Yep. That it just helps. Every little bit helps. With something like that. I just wanted to add too that there's some other stuff that I've worked on that are actually in editing right now. One thing is that we're working on, but there's a film, Baby Steps, where I play like a disturbed pregnant woman, and basically the story is my husband is trying to keep me from harming our unborn child, and it kind of touches on themes of like pro-choice, pro-life type of thing.
Sure. Because
my character believes there's this evil in me because I'm like mentally disturbed, and there's scenes where he has me restrained so I don't do any damage, and it's a really cool twist at the end, but that's in editing mode, or is yet to be edited. So that's something that I've worked on.
Who's produced that?
Me.
Oh, that's one of your own.
Yeah, one of mine.
Excellent. Very cool.
Yeah. And then another one, which was a comedy, kind of a series that, again, has not been made, but it's called DB, Disaster Blonde, and the premise is based off... It was actually inspired by my son, he watches a lot of like these YouTube videos, and it's about an internet conspiracy theory called the Mandela Effect, which I don't know if you've heard of, but it's basically like parallel realities type of thing, where you don't realize it, but like there might be one little small change, and you're like, I remembered something else. So basically it's based on Mandela, because I guess this girl, she thought she remembered that Nelson Mandela was killed or something. She has this man, and there was all these other people. I swear he was, and in this universe, it's not the case. And so there's all these like little things like that. So my character is basically somebody that's sent here on a mission from another reality to correct the little mistakes like that. And my character is basically like a blonde Mr. Bean, so I don't have language skills because I'm like a blank slate. And I end up kind of beamed in this man's yard who's this, he has this cat rescue. And so my first interactions with cats. So then that's my method of communication because I hear them meowing. So every time he's talking to me, ask me, "Where are you? What are you doing here?" Because I show up naked on this property, and I'm just meowing all my answers. And so it's kind of a funny thing. Like I'm trying to learn how to be human, and I'm trying to correct these little mistakes. But that's another one that I've worked on and just haven't edited. One of those.
It takes some time, that's
Yes.
for sure. And then there's the one you were mentioning, Butterfly in the Storm, which we're actually going to be working on some today.
Yes. And that was written by Christopher
Seans.
Yes. And he's kind of a prolific, I feel. Prolific in that he writes so much stuff. And it's so much stuff he's making that he gets people to make. There's a lot of stuff that he's written that he sends me and wants me to make. And I'm like, I've got to edit Butterfly in the Storm first. And you're in that one as well.
Oh, yeah. We're violent again.
Once again.
I actually, speaking of Christopher, I got to visit him for the first time and meet him in person. He lives in Kentucky, and it's bringing up the fact that you and I are fighting each other in these movies all the time. Or it's like an intimate scene turned completely violent, wrong, or whatever. And I'm like, we got to really remedy this. I keep telling them, we need some kind of a romantic role so people don't think we just hate each other and they bring us on set to beat the crap out of each other. Hopefully this podcast will alleviate some of those thoughts.
There you go.
But Christopher, hello to you, my friend.
Yes. And then with that one, that was my first attempt at directing, which went poorly as far as I'm concerned. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, it's really hard to direct a film that you're, as we were talking about earlier, that you're acting in, because you have to be in that place to play the role, and then also oversee everything. And I'm not good with that.
I hate that juggle
my
too.
My brain explodes. Just too many directions sent on. But that's why I've come to see Willy today, also to do this podcast. But he's going to show me the editing process, kind of take me through it, because even that's still I'm kind of a newbie with. So I am ready to learn.
At least you're taking some steps to learn more.
Yeah. So
anything else new?
Not really. I'm just trying to just finish what I've started. Like all these projects that are basically stuck in editing mode, I want to at least finish them. Whether anything becomes of them, that's not even my worry. I just want them to be done so I can feel good that I completed something.
I know exactly what you mean there. So you've played many, many, many different characters. What would you say of all the films you've been involved in has been your absolute favorite character to play so far? We know what you'd like to play. Now I'm curious what you've played already that just really stood out as maybe your favorite.
Okay. I would say probably the role that was my favorite was a role which I forgot to mention, that I just I filmed a couple months ago with Scott Martin for the film Union. I play a prostitute, which, yes, it's my typical thing of that type of sexualized role, but this is, and by no means does my character, there's not a sexual element to it, I guess you could say. There's no sex scenes.
Yeah.
What I really liked about this character, basically my character has kind of a whole monologue type of thing, begging this guy or John or whatever to stay with her. Like, she has feelings for him, and he doesn't say anything the whole time, and my character just basically pleads with him, all these things, trying to get him, to get a connection going, like, you should come with me to my son's game, and all these different things. And I really go through a lot of emotional arcs in that monologue, and it was such a touching role to me to play, because it's just so emotional. Like I basically lay my soul bare as this, tragic prostitute. You kind of really open up the inner world of somebody in that that industry, I guess. So I thought that was probably one of my favorite roles to play for, because I got to have so many character arcs in there.
Yeah, a lot of people, when they think of a prostitute character, they instantly think sexual end of it, but there's so many layers to a prostitute,
Right.
There's so much involved there that's not sexual and so emotional, and it can certainly be, I can see where it can be a very challenging type role.
Yeah.
It can be very gratifying to play because it is like you're taking on a number of different emotions.
Right.
What has been the most fun set to be on?
Any set with you.
Oh, that works great.
Seriously.
Even though we're fighting and beating the crap out of each other.
But that's what's fun.
Exactly.
Makes life interesting.
All right, so I've looked at IMDb. You have more than 40 credits as an actress on IMDb. I'm sure there's more that's not listed. I know that the new Torture of the Flesh is not even listed there yet, and stuff like that. So who have you been able to work with that has truly been inspirational for you, or that you may be learning a lot from, and then why?
Well, once again, I am not blowing smoke here.
This happens all the time.
Because actually off air, I was telling you, I don't know how you do it. You are an inspiration to me because you do so many different things. And if I may, you struggle with some similar types of issues. I don't know. So that's an inspiration to me because when I get in my funks, I can't do much creatively. It's so hard for me to even get out of bed type of thing. So seeing that you do that, it does inspire me. Like I've seen your Facebook posts the times that I'm on there, and you're posting, I'm doing this, and you might be saying that you're having a hard day or whatever, but you're still doing stuff, and that does actually inspire a person like me because you might be feeling one way, but you're still doing it. You're just into everything, and so I can appreciate that and hope I can learn some of that, of what drives you, what your energy source comes from.
I think it's, to be honest, when you're talking about depression and the anxiety and stuff that's involved, for me, I think it's a little bit different, or I respond a little differently. And I think this could be different for maybe anybody suffering with this type of stuff, is that I go into modes of, I have to do something to fix this. Something has to happen, and therefore I will go absolutely crazy working myself mad until I find a solution, whether it's something small involving one film project that might have one obstacle. I will not sleep until that obstacle is fixed.
Okay.
However, this just happened to me just recently. Sometimes I force myself to step away from everything for a day and try to escape that vicious cycle that has me going nonstop, because I could go without sleep for 3 days.
Yeah, and that sometimes doesn't help.
Oh, no, not at all. I force myself to go back and be around my daughters and spend a day away and try to ignore everything else unless it's extremely important.
Yeah.
Just to kind of get a grip and remember why the hell I'm fighting to begin with. And
yeah.
I think it's pretty important to do that sometimes. So,
but it sounds like it's kind of almost therapeutic for you, all the work and things that you are involved with. It seems like
you have to remember why you're
those...
doing it sometimes, because this isn't a very lucrative thing when you're working independent stuff, for sure.
Right, absolutely.
We all know that, but
yeah,
you got to remember why you're doing it, and why you keep fighting.
Yeah, and it's easy to lose sight, especially when things don't go your way with things. It's easy to get off course.
Well, I want to jump from being this praise board for me, and I want to ask you if there's anybody else that's been inspirational to work with, or who you really enjoy getting a call from saying, hey, I would love to have you come work on my film.
Well, gosh, it really is hard to narrow down because there's different people for different reasons. I would say, Christopher Kaler, I don't know if I'm even saying his last name right. When I get on a set with, he's very silly, very funny. I just find myself laughing the whole time I'm on his set. And Anita could speak to this too.
Anita Nicole Brown.
She'll
be the next episode of the Pod of Mayhem. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I got into giggle fits on set, and she was a witness to that. She had to escort me off set because I just start laughing. I think that's nerves with me sometimes. I get so emotional in the moment that I just start laughing stare.
That's what I saw of you directing. You're like, oh, it's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And you just break down into laughter. I guess that's the best medicine, though.
Yeah, it is. But also another person I would say, John Patrick Tomasek, who's I'm working with on The Castle, because a lot of his films, he's a demanding director, but he is the product that he gets out there is usually very, top quality, very professional. I know that it's going to be a good polished product. So, he always has projects kind of floating around that he wants to work on. So I always know that, like, oh, there's something I could be in, in the future. But yeah, it really is hard to narrow, because I feel like I'm leaving so many people out, and I feel bad because there's so many people that I've worked with that have made a mark on me in some way or another, and there's so many to list, I will say Brock Reeb, but I was in Incall with him. He was writer, director, actor in that. He's another one that was very demanding, but it's hard, but he comes out with like some really cool stuff. So, he'd be another one that I would want to work with him again, but I would know that it's going to be a rough road, but I know what's going to come out of that is going to be a good product. So sometimes you got to go through that to get to the good stuff.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with a song, and we'll talk about that a little bit after the break, as well as the pod of questions. Mm-hmm. We'll be right back. Get ready for the new Fetish Pod. I'm Willy.
And I'm Z. For those of you who enjoy the kinky side of life, you are going to love the Fetish Pod.
Each show will feature a telling of an erotic story or two.
And then we will dive deeply into all of the dirty details, discussing different fetishes each week.
So we wish to invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Simply search for the Fetish Pod.
Also, if you have an erotic story that you would like to share, please do email to thefetishpod@gmail.com, and we may feature your story on our show.
Our new podcast will be released every Wednesday beginning April 15th on all major podcasting platforms.
The Fetish Pod is for adult listeners 18 and over only. Our content can and will be very graphic with no apologies, so listener discretion is advised.
The Fetish Pod is a member of the Breaking Fate Radio Network.
Mystery sound. People is all and they call me
All right, welcome back to the Pod of Mayhem. I'm Willy Atkins. I'm here with my very good friend Lillian Lamour. So we just heard this song, Scream Queen, by the Firewalkers, and some of you may recognize that voice. Lillian, could you tell us a little bit about that song and how it came to be?
Yeah, I wrote that song specifically for another project that I was cast in at the time that I didn't end up playing the role. Anita played the role for Routines.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and so I wrote the lyrics for that. The inspiration for those lyrics are basically the whole story is about somebody that's a scream queen on film that's always getting killed on film, which was a lot of my roles where I'm killed on film. So basically the story in the song is that then my character, I guess you could say, turns the tables on her killer or killers, whatever, and goes after them instead. So that's kind of like what the song is about. The person that I was in a band with, Tim McKeever, we were in the Firewalkers, so he did the music for it, which I really liked how it turned out. So he handled the musical end of that. I just wrote the lyrics and sang it. It's a band that is now disbanded, but
that happens all the time.
Yeah, but that's another one of my things. I love singing. I do a lot of karaoke. That was kind of we kind of, he heard my voice, heard me singing karaoke. Tim McKeever did, and he was already in bands prior to me. Did a lot of music, and then when he heard me sing, he made the suggestion. He's like, "Would you like to come, sing for my band sometime?" And then so we started doing that, and we did some songs. We never played live. We were always in the
studio.
Yeah, studio, just the practicing phase of it. So it was just a small snippet of time that I was in that band. But Scream Queen was made specifically for Routines. But yeah.
Very cool. So we're going to get into this fun new segment we just started here recently. It's called the Pod of Questions. This will be 10 random questions for you to answer, and you can explain your answer if you wish. And you have been not prepped for this at all, right?
No.
Nobody ever is for these segments. It's kind of fun just to see how people respond and what the thought process is. If you have anxiety, this is where you tend to get it. But I promise you nothing but fun here. All right, question number 1. If clowns and mimes were in an epic battle to the death, who would win?
I would say mimes, because they're so much more physical, I think. Like they have to, I mean, so are clowns, but the mime has to rely completely on being physical to get their message across in the art form. So I think they just have an edge because they are very physically aware.
Very cool. Question 2. What is your biggest phobia?
You know what it is? Actually, improv.
Improv.
If you could believe it, and which is a big part of acting. That's always... I always beg for a script in films, but that's not always realistic and possible. So improv gives me a lot of anxiety. I usually get through it and do a pretty good job, but because I tend to overthink things, and improv is the anti, you have to just act in the moment. So you can't sit there like, oh, why would I say that? That's stupid, and that's my tendency to do that. So it's hard for me, but I think it helps me to actually be in improvisational situations because it kind of helps me get over my fear. Face it. Yep. Yes.
I'm doing a little research myself. That brings me to number 3. Do boobs float?
I think so. I think so, because I've had many moments where I've jumped into a pool, and because I usually wear something that I'm kind of cleavagey, inevitably boob surfaces. So usually they kind of like float around.
Cool. More market research. We'll work on that. Number 4. If you could retire anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
To the ocean. Somewhere where there's an ocean. I would not say a specific location because there's a lot of areas where there's an ocean, but I've always had a calling to be living on a beach somewhere, which I don't know if it's possible because I would think it's very expensive to have beachfront property, but that would be my dream, to retire at a beach with the waves.
What's nice about these questions is it's theoretical. Money doesn't have to be involved.
That's true.
Number 5. What is the better weekend date? A romantic camping trip in a remote wilderness, or intimate dinner in the city followed by an evening of dancing and drinks?
My gut says the wilderness one, which is funny because I am very like a frou-frou kind of person. Like, I don't like getting dirty. I do like getting dirty, I guess, with the stuff we've done.
Acting, folks, acting. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm like, I don't like bugs. I'm very like, I'm OCD about like, I got to put lotion on my hands. So like in a wilderness situation, it's kind of not that, I guess. So in that, but that's, I like being away from the hustle and bustle. So I would have to say that would be a better
choice, better date.
Yeah, but I would be OCD the entire time though. So I'd be the OCD date.
You'd be stuck in the tent.
Yeah, like just freaking out, thinking there's bugs and like.
Number 6, cross-country drive or take a flight?
Cross-country drive all the way, for sure.
Love road trips, huh?
I do. But I do appreciate gazing out a window on an airplane with, like, looking out the clouds and something. There's something magical about that, but I do love road trips. There's just something so, just the open road, the open possibilities,
I hear you. Number 7, describe your life using one word.
A mess. I don't know. That's the first word that came to mind. just disaster blonde. That's 2 words.
Disaster blonde. Just hyphenated to be all right.
Yes. Yeah, it's hyphenated. We'll go with that. Keep it one word.
Number 8, will being a podcast host make me popular with the ladies?
Absolutely. It's made you popular with me. I
think it's popular with you long before the podcast. Number 9, do you prefer to drive or ride shotgun?
Drive. I like to be in control. I like to be able to play my music. There are times where I'm like stressed or something. It's like, okay, it's nice to just be passive, just sitting in the passenger seat. But I feel my strongest when I'm in the driver's seat, I guess.
Number 10. It's kind of funny because I had just typed this and then something happened and I knew the answer. Would you rather live next to an airport or a train station?
Train station! I say that so emphatically because we were just talking about that, and I was telling Willy that I love the sound of trains because it's just something haunting about it and very atmospheric, and almost it's kind of like a lonely sound, the train, but it's something that like calls to me. It's very I don't know. And speaking of trains, this brings me to one of the films that I was in a couple years ago, but it's now finally starting to be put out there. It's on Amazon Prime. It's called Trained, and my character, I play alongside Yuri Rutman, and my character is somebody that has a fetish for trains. I have to be around moving trains to be aroused.
Wow, it makes you wonder how that comes to be. I mean,
yeah, it's I guess it's a real thing called I can't even say it. I'm not going to even. It's called like sideromophilia. I can't even say it. It's a tongue twister, but I guess basically it's just the story of my boyfriend. He is having trouble dealing with having a girlfriend that has this strange fetish, and I'm not going to say the ending because it's pretty important, but it was an interesting because we had to do like some guerrilla style filming on trains, and it's a very steamy film to say the least.
Nice.
But it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, if they filmed that in Chicago, I'm sure nobody on the train would have flinched at anything happening. And I know this. I've been there. I used to model a long time ago. Then I got a gut. Anyway, before that happened, I was with another model posing for a photographer, and we were on one of the L trains in Chicago, and she had this whole theme about had to do with some song or whatever, but basically I was eating her brain, and then I ate her heart out of her chest, and this is all during some crazy makeout scene, but we had this blood and FX happening in the middle of the L train, and did a photo session, and nobody flinched at any of it. It's just
that's funny.
That's Chicago, yeah.
Would just, yeah.
If there's no gunfire, then they're not running. They just don't care, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we had to sneak a lot of shots just because, all the protocols of permits and such, but...
Oh, yeah, it's a student film.
Yes.
Oh, and a train
Speaking
goes
of
by
which.
right now. I don't know if you'll hear it in the recording or not.
Ooh.
Amazing. So that's on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime or Amazon Video. I don't know. Probably not Amazon Prime. I don't know what the difference is, to be honest with you.
Well, Prime is like a membership base, and
So then Amazon Video. Yeah,
okay.
I think it's Amazon Video.
What other films do you know have made distribution that people could probably find?
Incall is another one. I don't know exactly what medium it is currently on. I'm very unprepared. I don't know about my own work. But that is something that's available to be viewed online. Might be on Amazon. Slit is another one I was in. That was kind of a erotic-y kind of film.
The title sounds erotic.
I know. Everyone says it.
Incall is on Prime Video.
Oh, okay. All right. And Candie's Harem, I think, is on Amazon as well.
What in the Sam Hill is on Amazon Prime.
Oh, see, you know this.
I distributed that one, so of course I know. So is Gordon Finn.
Wronged. That's where I play a deaf character. And
Oh.
that was another interesting one because I learned sign language to do the role. So, and then while on set, to stay in character, I did not talk to anyone.
That's excellent.
So, yeah, it was that was a really great role to do. I mean, I really felt like I was a true actress because it was a serious role.
You did some homework for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, that was a very enjoyable role. That one, I believe, is available for purchase or something. It might be on Amazon.
Well, they could always reference your IMDb.
Yeah.
For those looking for that, it's Lillian Lamour. We'll be sure to leave a link to that in the description of this podcast. So if people wanted to look up you in general, where would they be able to find you?
They would be able to find me on Twitter, on Lillian Lamour, and Instagram, and on Facebook, and on IMDb.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming out and having so much fun with me today. I know we have a lot of work to do still in editing.
We could just keep talking for hours.
Oh, we probably could. We could have a 6-hour podcast. But that just gives you more reason to come back out again.
Absolutely.
Thanks
I'd
for coming
love
out.
to.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for
Lillian.
having me.
All right. Thanks for joining me on the Pod of Mayhem this week. I want to thank Lillian Lamour once again for coming out and being my special guest this week. In addition to shining a light on creative people by way of the Pod of Mayhem, I also run a company called Breaking Fate Entertainment, with my mission being to produce, promote, and distribute the independent arts with film festivals, art exhibits, conventions, film production, book publishing, and so much more. If you're interested in supporting my efforts, I invite you to check out my brand new Patreon page, www.patreon.com/breakingfate, where you can become a mega fan and supporter of all that I do, with many awesome perks in the works as well. If you enjoyed this episode of the Pod of Mayhem, please give me a follow on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to stream your podcast. Please drop me a star rating or review if you feel so inclined. To keep in the loop with what I'm personally doing and access all my social media, simply visit willyatkins.com. My next public event will be the Lafferty Comedy Fest, featuring a day full of comedy films and comedians on Saturday, April 25th in DeKalb, Illinois. I'll also be world premiering one of my newest films there called Mac Isn't Gay. For more details, visit www.laffertycomedyfest.com. New episodes of the Pod of Mayhem are being released every week on Thursdays. Some distribution channels do take a little longer to publish than others, so be sure to follow and subscribe on your choice platform. You can always find the most up-to-date releases of the Pod of Mayhem, as well as other new shows coming soon at www.breakingfateradio.com. Next week's show will feature actress Anita Nicole Brown. Be sure to subscribe and follow not to miss it. Until next time, I'm Willie Atkins. See ya.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good,
It
though.
could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!